everybody, and welcome again to another episode of Crede Play Offense. Today, I'm joined by Troy Smith, the founder of Pandora Group and Pandora Tax and Accounting. It's not often that I would introduce a CPA or accountant on something that has to do about being highly offensive or aggressive on things, but having gotten to know Troy over the last few years and been lucky enough to sign up to be Crede's accounting partner, I can definitely tell you that we've been blessed to have him because his knowledge of tax and accounting is great, and it was so nice to be able to get a CPA firm working with us that actually reaches out quarterly and is kind of giving us the heads up of where things are. So we're never acting last minute. So Troy, thanks for joining us today, and would love to just have some folks today learn not just about tax and accounting, but how you really instill the customer relationship and the culture within Pandora. And it's a very different structure than your traditional accounting firm. So welcome, and maybe just provide a little introduction on yourself and your team and where you guys came from.
Yeah, thanks, Colby. Thanks for having us on. Always appreciate it, and loving having you guys as a partner and working together and helping businesses be successful. For our piece, it's I'll give you a little bit of background on Pandora, where we came from. I came out of Baker Tilly, I was a partner of Baker Tilly, the national top 10 accounting firm, big corporate America, large accounting firm, and about 2.5 years ago, I demerged my business out of Baker Tilly and started Pandora. The biggest reason for that has to do with we service entrepreneurs, clients that are building businesses, building real estate, building entrepreneurship, and growing their practices and their businesses from the ground up. And that takes a very unique, more or less kind of business management to the accounting and operations than just a straight, compliance filing. And that's really where our model, is very, very different. I looked at the traditional CPA model as a broken model for many, many years and pulled out of that and have been able to create a company and accounting practice, tax practice that really focuses on the client and their needs more in a full, sophisticated service platform. So we're looking at flat fixed fees, dedicated teams, follow up and being ahead of the client, working on current year tax planning, current year tax structures, and working with that on a client on a quarterly basis. So we're having, at a minimum, quarterly meetings that are required from our clients to be able to service them currently in 2024 rather than working on the 23 compliance of everything that happened a year ago. So much more offensive, much more proactive. And I think that's, where it kind of aligns with you, Colby, on playing offense. The stuff that we're able to do, being ahead of the game and being ahead of our tax situation over a year in advance, we're really able to make sure that these planning and opportunities are set forth. So Pandora really becomes the first point advisor. We become the quarterback for your tax returns, your estate planning, your tax structures, your consulting, your strategy, and how does it all fit together? How do we make sure that all your buckets of income are lining up? So your income and your losses are lined up. Your generational wealth is handled, your long-term estate planning. How do we make sure that we're maximizing the current year? Real estate is very important. Cost segregation studies, structure, debt, all of that makes a huge position as to what happens in the tax return and how those assets are moved around and in a tax incentive manner.
I'll vouch for that completely. It was interesting for you guys that are all listening. You might or might not know we run EOS, kind of a traction and a forward-looking and structured approach to our environment within Crede for our management. And it was so easy to really integrate Pandora's team into all of our tracking and all of our KPIs for our accounting staff, where instead of the historical approach where our controller or our CFO might be calling and just supplying a quarterly return or this and that, Troy's team actually reaches out, and we have a quarterly meeting if we're looking at projections, not just rearward. And and it's things of what are you guys thinking about for next quarter or next year, and then I'll say for us, I mean, coming up with suggestions of ways to invest or making sure we're thinking about opportunities that might have accelerated depreciation or might in the old world it would have been conservation easements or different structures that are looking at really trying to solve income or solve problems before they become problems. So you maybe want to chat a little bit about that, and then I've got a couple other questions on culture for you before we get too far into what potentially might or might not come in 2025.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it aligns with, kind of the generational and planning and structuring that we do for the businesses. I mean, that stuff is constantly changing. The biggest thing in real estate for generational and estate and even forward-looking planning as well is real estate's illiquid. You can't just liquidate assets immediately. Also, as you go in and you hold properties for a long period of time, we're taking depreciation, and that depreciation runs out. You've got low basis assets continue to be refinanced with negative capital accounts. So you're receiving a lot of ongoing capital, so-called tax-free income during the life of these projects. Well, tax free is great in those positions that we're receiving it, but what happens 5, 10, 15 years down the road? The rubber hits the road, and how do we plan for that? And so we know, we've been in those situations in very long term. So the structuring and work that we do early on helps fix and mitigate some of those long term issues down the road. So very, overall long term planning, the cost segregation studies, getting, the most important piece is how do we make sure that we save the dollar today, but also preserve the dollar for tomorrow. And those are the thought processes that our team goes through in making sure that our clients understand the quarterly projections of where are we at, up, down, left, right. How do we help from a tax perspective to make sure that we've got the cash flow, the income, the positions that we want to be able to mitigate, getting back returns to investors, meeting pro formas, estimates, and making sure that those all align for our clients as well, so that they understand, what are we getting from not only the cash flow and the income, but what's happening on the tax side, and how do those two pieces reconcile?
And it's I've always been a big believer in the old Sailor Jerry comment of good work ain't cheap and cheap work ain't good. But I have to give you guys compliments because you're very advanced and sophisticated in what you do. But it was for us when we went out and really solicited bids from multiple groups. You're very cost effective as well, and I
Yeah.
think that has to do with your structure and but maybe talk about how you approach that, because you've taken remote work and culture to an extreme that's frankly some of the, I'd say, the most in line with our culture, which is family and integration with companies, compared to your traditional, larger, for lack of a better term, stuffier corporate accounting practices.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it aligns with, in the tax world and the tax consulting piece that, I've had in growing many other entrepreneurial businesses and practices, as well. My main operation is tax accounting and, the tax firm and consulting, but also an entrepreneur at heart, and bringing those pieces of what's important to a business, what's important. The biggest aspect of an accounting, a tax firm and accounting firms are the staff. And we're only as good as our employees, and making sure that those guys really understand the strategies, the consulting, the structures, the operations, because as that all flows down through, it's, I've always had a strong belief of making sure that, we don't put people in silos, but we teach them to really integrate into the business, and understand what that is. And it becomes, both a blessing and a curse. The blessing is you've got a very strong team that's going to always be there. The flip side is you're teaching your employees how to be entrepreneurs and how to think for themselves. And and that goes a very long way in what builds a very strong business. We are a fully remote firm. We've come out and continue to keep culture. We keep, those pieces very important to us. I think the way that those pieces are done is making sure, we've got direct people that inside the firm that are responsible for keeping the culture, keeping the team energized, keeping the team motivated, keeping them moving on a daily basis, keeping them organized with their calendars and what needs to happen and their priorities and their due date lists. And that comes through, a direct person of someone that's on top of that on a daily basis. It's very easy in accounting to understand what people are doing on a daily basis and what is moving and communication is happening throughout the firm. So it's very trackable and understandable from those positions. Everybody thought that the only way to do that was billable hours. And we've completely removed billable hours inside of our firm. And we've taken an approach that aligns more with the client than with the actual, than internally of trying to track somebody. We've become extremely more efficient as a firm because billable hours, what we found an efficiency on that by not having our employees or managers record their time has saved an average of about 9 to 10 hours a week of our employees' time, of them actually trying to track their time on a daily basis every 15 minutes to understand what they're working on. It has then increased about 25 additional hours per manager in the billing process as well. We've gone to a complete flat fixed fee billing model and really push that out. So the billing happens automatically. It's already set forth in the engagement with the client on an annual basis, and very clear expectations from that. So by being able to reduce 10 hours a week of our employees, 25 hours a week on our managers, from one simple practice of being able to eliminate that, has really increased efficiencies. Now, from the client side, what does the client see? They see a very strong connection because now a client comes in with something small or something that one of our staff would not be able to bill for. They're not fighting to try and, make sure that they're performing or their billable hours are there, or they're recording fake time, or trying to cut their time, and we're trying to read reports on efficiencies from that. What we're able to do is align the staff with the client, so the client gets that top level service because every single piece of their account is worth making that effort of time for the employees to invest into, because it does not affect their bonuses or anything of that nature. Now you go back and now you take the next step into the profit motive, and we bonus our teams based upon their profitability inside of the firm, and this is based on two factors. One is what we believe is a balanced lifestyle, and one is what we believe as motivation for our team as well. There's two types of people in the industry, in the workforce, and those are people that are driven by a balanced lifestyle, and those people that are driven by hard work and financial success. And so we built a model that rewards both of them in the same manner, by allowing our managers to build their teams so that the entire team functions in an entire strategic manner. So whether that's a balanced time team or whether that's a financial driven team looking for bonuses. So bonuses are valued in both time and financial reward. So, what it pans out to is if you want more time, more balanced lifestyle, you're going to reduce the amount of volume of clients that you're going to have, which reduces your income, which is going to be, you're going to give up time for the bonuses that you receive. The same piece happens to a client on the flip side that is, in that with a client that's, a managing team that's going to drive really hard and drive a lot of revenue and a lot of income to their book, their managed book of business, and they're going to drive huge bonuses for their client. Each of our teams inside of our firm manage their own profit and loss statement. and they get a significant bonus of how well they perform, and from that, it's very much in their well-being to keep clients on their book, keep clients happy, create efficiencies with their clients, get their clients to be very aligned with how they get the data, receive the data, and become efficient. So without even putting in time or us understanding how to record this, we put it directly into their paychecks, which massively makes that happen, specifically because it affects whether they get to have more time off or whether they receive a bigger paycheck. And we see this day to day.
That's pretty cool. I mean, and I can vouch for the fact that, we're in the middle of a roll up buying project management companies across the U.S. and Pandora has been an integral part of that, as well as being very integrated into the deals we invest in the SPVs or the real estate that we run. And Troy and his team struck a deal with us at the beginning of the year, and we don't see those add-ons or the nitpicky hours. They truly are a partner for us. So yeah, I can tell you as a client, it's much appreciated. As you're looking to grow next year, just before we move away from the people that are potential employees or accountants that we're talking to, are you looking to grow next year? And for potential people that would want a job, what is it you're looking for? Like what makes a Pandora accountant versus somebody that you might pass?
Yeah, I mean, both from a client perspective and as a staffing perspective, we're always looking to grow, but we also deliver a very value add service. So it's very calculated in the way that we operate. We always review the client list on an annual basis to understand what clients our managers want to have, and where they are with communication in that with each client. So every client is reviewed on an annual basis, to make sure that they still meet the Pandora requirements to be a client of ours. And so, as well as clients always seeking us, we're also making sure that, to make sure the value proposition stands, that our managers and our team have the ability to be like, hey, these clients just aren't performing. They aren't getting us data. They're making our lives miserable. They're making things very difficult. And in that, we review those cases and go, it's just not a fit, right? We go through, we put a lot of clients on, process review of, hey, we'll work through another year and see if these things get better. But these are the expectations as a client, and that's something that a lot of firms don't always do. They're always trying to drive to the next big revenue source. They're trying to get the next new client, the next new client. We really want to make sure that our client base is the clients that we want to have. And so in that, we drive, our managers and our teams that are built, from an employee side. We want, people that want to be entrepreneurs, want to think outside the box, have a strong technical background. We're usually taking, managers and staff from larger accounting firms. Probably the top 40 firms are where we kind of recruit from and pull from. And in that, we really look at, these are the ones that are, want a little bit more than that, just kind of salary or day-to-day routine or having to go in the office. They want more flexibility. They want to work from home. They love the unlimited PTO. We have, our team members work all over the world. They travel, all times of the year. They're working in Europe. They're working in uh, Mexico. And as long as they meet their obligations to be on their client calls and perform their work duties, we don't care where you are or where you're living. So, we have staff members right now living over in Europe. They wanted to spend 6 months over in Europe, and they're over there enjoying themselves. So people, we want to help embrace that and push those beliefs, and let people, live the lives that they want to live, but understand, the demands of still being able to work and produce for us. So we look for people that probably want to step outside their comfort zone a little bit, be in a little bit more unique situation, but also have, derive from that. Now, on the flip side too, one of the pieces that we really look for in Pandora is we need highly sophisticated technical team members. The work that we do is not traditional compliance work. It's not your traditional, accounting of putting numbers in a tax return. We are structuring. We are worried about capital accounts. We're worried about planning. We're worried about how assets move. A lot of code sections, and this is where we spend a lot of time training our team members and working with our members on their knowledge and sophistication. Our clients are very sophisticated. They're very complicated. They own multiple businesses, multiple properties. It's not uncommon that our average client has about 200 plus K1s coming into a tax return. 10 or 15 businesses is not uncommon. Intercompany transactions, intercompany roll-ups, all of these complicated accounting measures of how they flow and operate. Our team members need to be able to understand all the financials inside and out from that, and be able to get the data to get it on the tax return and do that also in a very tax efficient manner. Yeah. So what we do is we look at how we train and develop our team is we go back to our team and they pick a location anywhere in the United States. We've gone out of the United States to Mexico and Cabo, so technically worldwide, and we bring our team to that location for a week. That is a mandatory training facility and training center, and we spend an entire week where the entire office is shut down from outside clients, and we work through our strategies, our structures. How do we, specific client transactions that our team members have questions on. We dig into the details. Yes, we understand that we came in and solved that problem. Maybe a partner or senior manager came in, or a tax director came in to solve that problem. But on the top level of that, we go into those details of how those problems were solved and how we got to those conclusions and what our experience over the years has given us to get there. And so all of that has gone through twice a year with our team in a week-long training session.
No, very cool. And are you, I know I've been fortunate enough to get to know some of your clients over the years. And that's, from entrepreneurs that have great growth potential to, people that have exited in family offices, a few, private equity funds as well. Do you have, if you were to look to say like, how the business is spread, is there, I know it's generally entrepreneurial, but is there a segmentation or a general group that should come to you depending on what they're looking for, if they're looking to change shops?
Yeah, it is. We target entrepreneurs. We do an intake interview and on clients that come in. About 40% of the clients are real estate based clients. We have a large presence in real estate. We know it very well. We work through it and do it on a regular basis. About 60% of our clients are founder entrepreneurs, doctors, ticket sales. Marketing, direct-to-consumer businesses, widget makers, industrial, transportation. There isn't really an industry that we specifically state, more than, I would say the majority of one particular industry is probably real estate. But over that, it's more just the entrepreneurs that have founded their businesses and built them from the ground up. We're extremely good at understanding the entire business practice, what is needed, what is, and creating that network. If I go back to the quarterback, first point advisor, do we need sales tax? Do we need, who's doing the business registrations? Who's, getting down really into the nitty gritty, payroll, all of that stuff of making sure we've got people that are in there helping and building the business and what's needed, controllers, finance people, the difference between a controller or a CFO. What's the difference between those? And they're drastically different. And for a lot of business owners, they believe having one person in an accounting department is that's it. And it's very different to have an accounting department and a finance team inside of a business because they're actually operating in two different functions. Your accounting team is known as a historical reporting, and your finance team is known as your projection, budgeting, cash flow, operational portion of your business. So helping a little bit in the business management with clients as well, which kind of goes outside of what normal people call in the accounting world. But our experience with entrepreneurs and the questions that we get asked, we are the first point advisors, and so we've really built practices to help our teams direct our clients to the right solutions.
It's just, and that's one of the ways you and I clicked. It's amazing to me how similar our businesses are. Because we always say at Crede that, we're either the quarterback or the offensive coordinator. Our role is to allow our clients to make informed decisions and, come to them with a recommendation, but give them options. And people say, "Oh, aren't you a general contractor?" And I'm like, my funny response is, "No, I'm not a plumber." And, it's about how do we really see the whole field, not only at 10,000 feet, but down at 2 feet, and tell them what the difference is between, you might have one construction manager, but they're just going to do blank. And, they're either not sophisticated enough to see and have been through all of this, or they're too sophisticated that they won't do punch list. It's truly like, we both supply what I would consider full service a la carte teams. I think where you and I,
100%.
yeah. All
Very
right.
simple.
Coming up on September 15th and then October 15th, which in at least my world has always been the actual tax filing day. I don't know what everybody worries about the other days for, because that's just your extension dates. But what, we talked a little bit about cost segregation. A lot of big conversations have been going around about accelerated depreciation investments or different things. Opportunity zones have been, very in flavor for the last few years, conservation easements, etc. But what are you guys looking at this year or coaching people on? And then, what do you see as, and maybe it's a second question, but what do you see as potential risks with elections coming or different things for 2025? So if you want to break that up, let me know.
Yeah, I think I'll kind of take the last piece first. With elections coming up, everybody always asks us the question, what do you see, what's going to happen? And to be honest, it's an opportunity for us. It's job security. We don't know. And nor, it's going to be, yes, we hope for bonus depreciation. Does bonus depreciation is going to drive a lot of pieces. Well, you also have Section 179 still available, right? So bonus depreciation versus 179 deduction. So there's, how do we, in what happens and who gets elected, our job as, the tax consultants and the pieces from here really come back down into the complete job security of, okay, well, now we've got another way that we've got to make sure that we're structured or we're operating, efficiently. What's the best way to take these assets? What's the pros and the cons? Bonus depreciation versus 179. Well, 179 went out because of bonus depreciation, because of the carryovers and creating losses and things of that nature in businesses. Now that you see the reduction in bonus, you're going to see 179 coming back as big ways to depreciate your assets. And so, it's constantly changing and constantly moving. If we had, crystal balls and we're able to do this, we'd be able to set up, 100% perfect tax structures that would get our clients to zero tax all the time. The idea here is we've got to be nimble to be able to set clients up in structures that are operationally nimble and able to move without interruption to our clients' operations and businesses. So we want to make sure that we're able to take advantage of the best tax position that we can put ourselves in, but also if things change, we understand what we have to do to be able to pivot or move those, in different directions. Obviously, from a political standpoint, we all know what's going to be best from a tax position. But Trump put in a lot of new tax laws that hindered us in a lot of ways that we weren't expecting as well. So yes, the Democratic Party always puts in what we call, less advantaged tax strategies or tax opportunities. But you see it on both sides, because what happens in some ways can be very advantageous in other positions or structures that we've been looking and waiting for. So a lot of it is we wait. The early bills that come out, clients always hit us up. We try to follow up with that. But our position has always been as a firm, wait. The initial bills that usually come out are going to be changed 5, 6, 7 times, and are never going to be the actual ones that get issued. So wait until we hear what's actually going to happen before we spend time or start doing planning on something that has not been enforced, or put into play, because we can waste a lot of hours on things that aren't going to happen. And we found that the case many, many times. So, you know, very integral. It's important coming into election season to be, to be able to be ready. I think the biggest thing right now for clients and people, that should be looking at stuff is your estate plans. I think your estate gifting limits are the highest that we've ever seen them. In a very long period of time. It's important to get that gifting completed by 2026, so that these statutes are, you're able to take advantage of those, because no matter the party that gets elected, I do see those exemptions coming down in the future. So there's pieces of that nature that we want to make sure that we're taking advantage of now.
Okay. Well, thank you. Well, I appreciate the time today. Anything else you want to touch on in general with Pandora, or tax wise in general? I mean, I give you great kudos, because again, it's for us, the cultural connection between the two groups is incredible, and just how overall as an approach, it was shocking to me with different CPAs and firms I've worked with over the years, and just so refreshing to have your team reaching out to and kind of looking forward with us, and really making sure it was all about us as a customer and not about billable hours, and not nor asking me what approach I wanted to take, and then me having to go out and research IRS law or come up with ideas or strategy to try to drive your team. It was, frankly, it's been the absolute opposite, which is so refreshing for me.
Yeah, no, it's great. I mean, we try and stay on the cutting edge, and there's always going to be new and innovative things that other people hear in the marketplace. YPOs, your Tiger 21s, your different networking groups. Everybody's always going to be passing through the next best idea. As I tell clients, we're always happy to look at things and review it, but for the most part, we're coming to you with what we feel is the most strong, innovative structures, strategies that are defendable. We've been in tax audits, we've been in tax litigation, we've been in tax court, we've been in depositions. We have the experience to know what's happening and what's going on out there, and how to handle these situations. And those are the pieces that we're looking out for our clients, and making sure that we're doing things that we can be strong and be defensible. And we always want to help our clients in the best, most tax advantage manner. We're not going to sit back and just tell you no. We're going to try and find a solution, and understand, and every situation has pros and cons, and we're here to, weigh those pros and cons and weigh those situations and make an educated business decision that we're making with our clients. And that's our approach that we take. So pleasure to be on here, Colby, and thanks for having us. The biggest point that I want to make is we're trying to do things different. We're trying to make tax accounting and tax returns sexy and fun, and hip, and putting a marketing company type spin onto an accounting firm that we can get good, strong employees and bring the industry back. I think it's been beat down, it's been stressed out for so many years, and try and bring back some life into it, so that clients are finding a profit center in their accounting practice because it's making money. Your tax return is actually the biggest, best investment you can make, in doing that. There is no other place I can tell you, from a guaranteed position, that you can make a 35% annualized return in 1 year. And that is saving $1 on your tax return. You save $1, you save 35 cents in taxes. So finding that dollar deduction is, a 35% savings, and that is a direct, immediate IRR return, coming back to clients. And so, going out and searching for that next big investment or that next big thing that's going to hit, one of the best places to look is right at home. You don't have to jump over the fence or look anywhere, but look at your own tax return, look at your structures, put some money, some energy, some time into making sure that you're taking advantage of every opportunity that you have in front of you, because that's going to allow you to make sure that you're maximizing the dollars that you're sending away.
Well, very cool. So if potential employees, team members, or clients want to reach you, is the best way through Pandora Group's website, or
Just reaching out directly to myself, Troy Smith at PandoraTax.com, or Taylor Winter, Taylor.winter at PandoraTax.com, and we'll get you directed right in through our team. Onboarding at PandoraTax.com as well is also a great site for email for potential clients or team members.
Very cool. Well, everyone, thank you again for joining Crede Play Offits. Troy, thank you for your time today, and I look forward to seeing you soon, my friend.
Thanks, Colby. Appreciate it. Look forward to it.